Hey guys, good morning everyone. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, and I just couldn't sleep this morning. I had to get up. It was crazy, but I'm sitting here reading part two of an Ascension Handbook, and the overview is kind of short, so I figured I would go ahead and get the overview out real quick, and then continue on into the I believe it's section 7. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Part two of this book is Ascension and how to do it. So it gives us a few pointers on how to go about it and some things to research, such as cleansing your chakras, cleansing the fields, getting into meditation and spirit, and how to invite spirit, your higher selves, to embody your lower fields and to live spirit, to transform your ego. Because the ego doesn't necessarily have to die, it just has to realize that it's not in control, that it's not the center of attention. It is a tool, and the spirit is the driver or the workman using the tool. So let's go ahead and just get into this, and this is just the overview for part 2 in Ascension, how to do it. I think everybody's going to really enjoy part 2. This is where all of the good info is. The part 1 is just a pretext of just trying to get acclimated to what is going to be said, and this is the best part right here. Part 1 covered what you might need to know as preparation for ascension. We've seen how the human species made its monumental decision to draw the veils of amnesia at birth, so that you begin each incarnation not knowing who you really are. Since mankind made that decision, the race has expended enormous amounts of energy in trying to solve the riddle while still in the physical bodies and behind the veils. Mankind has postulated spirit as external to itself and called it God, or, sensing the vastness of spirit, postulated a whole pantheon of gods to be worshipped. Man has killed man because of disagreements over concepts which they both invented. But in this glorious experiment, the source, you in the widest sense, learns more about itself. So that's going back to you are source, but yet you see yourself as separate. This is all source experiencing life and love and the physical through us. But now the experiment is over. It's time to pack up the tents and move on. That's ascension. The most pressing task now is for all the ego self-projections to consciously choose to embody spirit. Sorry about that. That means aligning the 3 lower energy bodies with the energy of spirit and allowing spirit to flow freely through them consciously. You as spirit have always worked through you as ego. But ego has been too occupied to notice. That's, ego is a distraction. It always thinks it's the center of attention. It's the class clown. You gotta get him to calm down and step out of the way. Or not just step out of the way. You gotta get him to work in the right fashion, to put his head down, put his nose to the grindstone, and go with it. So you got to hone your ego. You got to get him into submission. You got to wrestle with him a little bit and put him down, and then tell him who's in charge. And then you can move forward. We are talking here about a deep knowing that you are primarily spirit in nature, rather than a body with feelings, that you create your reality through your thoughts. that everything you see around you is simply captured energy, giving you the perception of solidity. We are talking about the level of conscious awareness of spirit, such that when you look at someone else, you know without doubt that you and they are spirit, made of the same stuff as the source. We are talking about levels of knowing and unconditional love not known on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years. About the ability to consciously create any object or circumstance you wish, and about the unconditional love that this degree of power requires. In part 2, we look at what you can do to bring this about. The ironic thing about ascension is that it must begin with descension. The descension of spirit into the physical, emotional, and mental fields. You as spirit are responsible for this process, and we'll see what you can do to get your personality out of the way. You must be consciously aware of what's going on and what is to happen. Of course, but once you at the ego level have built one half of the bridge, spirit will build the other half and they'll meet in the middle. Your conscious role is to clean out your lower levels, get them aligned, and prepare them to handle the massive influx of high-frequency light energy. Spirit's role is to flood these fields with your own energy and complete their alignment. Everything is spirit, of course. It's just a matter of how much distortion your ego self imposes when it expresses itself. Or when it expresses spirit. My bad. It is just a matter of how much distortion your ego self imposes when it expresses spirit. I offer steps and guidance for this process. However, be aware that the process differs for each person, so the guidance can only be general. Fortunately, as the channels between ego self and spirit self open more and more, spirit will take over the guiding. It has done this before many times. This personal guidance is far more valuable than anything you could receive from me or any outside authority. But the trick is trusting. Human nature puts more credibility on what comes in from outside. Learning to trust spirit rather than outside authorities is a major part of the process. So true. Do you remember the space jello we talked about earlier? The fate of the yellow jello when a standing wave was introduced into the red jello, and how it would slowly build up the exact same standing wave, and how if the yellow jello was totally enclosed in the red jello, the yellow would vibrate as one with the red. Being physical on the physical plane means that you are totally enclosed in a planet-wide field. Your fields not only interact with those of other people, picking up their energy and forming your own standing waves, but they are also totally immersed in every planet-wide field. If your fields are at all predisposed to the energy in another's fields, or in the planetary fields of the consensus reality, resonant standing waves are inevitable, and some of them are not very pleasant. So 2 things need to happen. First, you need to reduce your predisposition to any standing waves you don't want. And second, increase your predisposition to those that you do want. We'll look at both issues. First, we'll examine ways of disconnecting from dysfunctional energy in other people and the consensus reality by removing any dysfunctional energy of your own, and by raising the lowest frequency that your fields can hold to a frequency above the level where unwanted resonance can occur. Second, we'll examine ways of resonating with energy you do want in your fields, the energy of spirit. Remember that you as spirit want you as ego to ascend more than anything else. In this sense, ascension for the ego involves its redefining itself as spirit. See, there we go. We gotta get ego and talk to him a little bit and figure out how to get him to open his eyes, or her, in whoever's case. This means looking, feeling, thinking, and being as spirit. Ego doesn't have to change what it is, but only what it thinks it is. It has always been spirit, but didn't know it. This not knowing often distorted spirit as it expressed through the ego. Now it is time to expand its awareness, drop the veils and fear, and embody spirit. It's a culmination of an entire cycle of lives. You are the embodiment of your spirit self that's going to lead every other incarnation across time into the light. So that's saying that all of your incarnations prior to you, that you have come, you're going to lead all of those incarnations. You can take it to source and to your higher selves and negate, because you are the last descendant so far of your higher self. You can negate on any vows, any promises, any dark incantations that any other, or dark energy that any other incarnation of your prior self has brought into this world. You can negate on everything and start a new ball rolling. In the Bible, it talks about the sins of the fathers being passed on to the sons and the daughters of that being, because of generational curses, generational sin. This, that's how we see the predisposition for people with generational curses. So you have the power to negate all of that. You have the power to take it to source and take it to your higher self and say, I don't want this. This energy was useful for a time, but I give it back to the universe. I'm thankful for it, but it's not mine. I don't want it. Start new. Until a few years ago, this process was extremely difficult. Raising your frequency and moving between planes required dedication and extensive training. But now the brakes are off. For example, an elevator has been created through the plane system. It was conceived by Sananda. Sananda is an incarnation of the Christ Spirit. And we call it the unity band or frequency. Now the planet is ascending anyway, so a major push is underway to get as many of you as possible to ascend along with the planet. In this part of the book, we see how. And that is the end of the introduction to Section 2. We will begin on Section 7 here shortly after I take a short break. It is Breaking Old Patterns, Section 7, Resonance. There's a lot of info in there. I hope everybody grasp that, and if you have any questions or any comments, please always leave them in the comment section. I will gladly answer any questions to the best of my ability, and if I don't know the answer to your question, I will definitely find out from somebody who does, and take it to source and run it through them, run it through him first, and I'll definitely get back to you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Bless you, and peace be upon you.